talk about the 25 must-haves for retail brands. And to do so, I'm bringing in Jen.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here and I'm really excited. So let's dive right in.
Artistic imagery is what we're going to talk about first. This is something that's used by very few brands, but it's that extra little touch that most brands don't do that sets them apart from others.
So what are some of the brands that you've loved to work with in the past that have really shown how to do this well?
This example of fugu is fantastic. It shows the pine tree, it shows some dirt on the fugu. It shows exactly where you can and cannot use the product. I really like the Tough Hands picture. I love the colors, I love how vibrant it is, I love how it grays out all the other products. Displays are also critically important. If you're lucky enough to have been given a 4-foot section on a planogram from a buyer, your chance of success on sell-through skyrockets. So take advantage of it. So displays can come in many different formats. So you have things like a clip strip, right, for like lip balm. You have shelf displays that are right next to the checkout lane. You have floor shippers, which sit on the floor in any sort of retail shelf. These are critically important. Your chance of success, if you're given one of these, skyrockets.
Yeah, for sure.
It's also really important to talk about your featured PR to retail buyers. Not only are you getting the push to get the buyers to pick up your product, but you're also getting the end consumer to actually purchase your product. PR has played a huge role for a lot of the products that we've had.
I know a lot of our products have used PR to really get momentum. So like they'll get on a show, for example, like the Today Show, and they'll have somebody on there talking about their product. Not only do they have a great opportunity to sell, but then we can go back in and we can show the buyers like we were just featured on Today, and that provides a lot of momentum for our retailers. For our brands.
Yeah, it does.
You always want to make sure that you have something fresh to bring to the buyers in your emails, especially in your subject line, so that you can always, intrigue them enough to open up that email. They get thousands of emails every week. And
just bringing that new content is huge.
So even if it's not like a huge win for you to go on the Today Show, even if it doesn't bring in a lot of sales for you, it will always keep things fresh for the buyers so that you can, because buyers have a lot of different buying seasons, it will always keep things fresh for you to come back in and represent it. Like, look, we just had a chance to work on to present our product on
You're just
Today's
sharing
Show.
your wins. I think that's the critically important part about it.
Yeah, showing them that you're bigger than what you are, or that you are gaining momentum in other areas will show them that you are relevant enough to look at.
Here's some examples of dealer and distributor price sheets. These are what you're going to be actually showing to retail buyers. They can look in here and they can see the case packs, the masters, the inners, the MSRPs, the MRPs, all the content they need to be able to figure out if you're a good fit for them. Either have your pricing say dealer or have it be distributor. Stay away from the vague term wholesale.
Because does it confuse
It's
buyers?
completely confusing.
It just makes you look
all
smaller.
All the word means is discount. And so a lot of times it's really confusing and you have to clarify with the buyer anyway. So just use the words dealer or distributor. On-shelf pictures are critically important. Just take some of your products, clear out a shelf, show what your products look like on a shelf so the buyers don't have to guess on what your products would look like, in their set. You can actually just go into like your local store, pull off some products, put on yours, take some photos, so they have a really good idea of what it'll ultimately look like in their store.
Yeah, this has been a great tactic we've always used in the past.
Infographics are an awesome tactic to deploy. It's remarkable how much information you can get across in one quick, simple sheet. Imagine you're a retail buyer and you get hundreds of emails in your inbox every day. If you're the brand, you only have 2 or 3 seconds to relay on your message. An infographic utilizes that 2 or 3 seconds better than anything else there is. So brand lifestyle videos is something that's rarely used, but is extremely efficient. What we did a lot of times is the first couple minutes that we'd meet with a retail buyer at their corporate office is we'd pull out a 2 or 3 minute video that really explained the brand, who we were, where we're going, what our values were.
Yeah, it also infuses a lot of energy into the meeting so that they can capture a sense of what it's going to be like to have your product on their shelves.
It's just that little extra oomph that totally differentiates you from everybody else.
Pushes you over the edge.
It does.
Yeah.
So check out AntHillMotionProductions.com, for example.
Yeah, we've actually already done a few videos like this for some of our people. So now we're offering that to some of our clients as well. So if you are interested in creating a lifestyle video and you need somebody to help you do it, that is something that Motion Productions offers.
Yeah.
And we can put a link in the references for you.
You can take a risk on hiring somebody else, but Anthill Motion Productions will do as good of a job as any. As e-commerce grows and a lot of sales are done online, product instructional videos and what's actually in the box is becoming more and more critically important.
It's just going back to simplifying everything. When I, in my personal life, am trying to find, instead of like reading the instructions for things that I buy online, I oftentimes go to YouTube videos and just watch somebody in a 5-minute clip. And I'm sure you guys are the same.
There's many different facets with product demo videos. You could go from like unboxing, see what's inside, to the setup on how to prepare and how to use the product, how to use it, how it compares to other products in the category. There's even tons of really good videos out there that'll actually cut open the product to see what either the ingredients are or the components are inside.
You know, that reminds me of blend tech videos. I'm sure you guys know the high-powered blenders. Something like that would really set you apart and also bring an element of fun to a buyer's world where they're constantly in the doldrums of boring paperwork mostly.
Yeah.
It would really set you apart and bring a
Totally.
lot of energy, like the lifestyle videos that we mentioned earlier.
So feature and benefit sell sheets are awesome. They're also really important to do. They want to see exactly where are we going to use this product, how's it going to benefit us, right? For the end consumer or even for the buyer.
Yeah, it's one more step to easily break down what the buyer's looking at. One more thing to make it simple so that they can understand at a glance.
Lifestyle images are an awesome part of what a brand does. So one tip when using lifestyle images is use professional models. Buyers can tell really quickly if you're showing pictures of your family or if it's done just with D footage. Just do it, pay for it, and do it the right way the first time.
Yeah, that's one of the most fatal flaws for people when they're starting their brand. These images you're going to be using in your emails to these buyers to kind of capture their attention and keep them interested.
Yeah.
If they've opened one of your emails first and they've seen, a beautiful image, they're going to take you, number one, as a more legitimate brand. But number two, it'll even if they don't respond to that email, you'll start building up legitimacy in their mind, and you'll also start creating curiosity in their mind.
And a lot of times what you can do is you can take different photo shoots and not use them all at once, but just trickle them out through the year and have them overlap with other photo shoots that you're trickling out through the year. So not all photo shoots are at the beach, and then all of a sudden 3 months later you're in the mountains or whatever it is. Just space them out evenly, and the buyer will never know the difference.
So it's really important to talk about lighting in your lifestyle images. The most trendy images nowadays have a lot of light in them and a lot of white backgrounds. So if you are indoors, that's something to consider. You don't want any dark images. They look more clunky and less professional, in my opinion.
So you can use your lifestyle images across all different platforms, from your retail packaging to your sell sheets to even your presentations to the buyers. It's not like you're just spending a ton of money on content that's only going to be used on one platform. So brands that have a good sized budget will actually have a media schedule. If you're fortunate enough to be promoting your product across a lot of different mediums, then obviously you want to present that to the buyers. Outdoor creative is another really important part of what you're presenting. What's going to be on the billboards, what's going to be on, in the subways. If you have a big budget, it's a great way to build information about your product, right? And build your awareness.
Yeah, I would say it's not necessary, especially in the early phases. You might not ever need to spend money on outdoor creative.
That's right.
Category, but
for national brands, right?
For national brands, it's a great idea, and eventually you might get there. But if you don't ever get there, I think the biggest bang for your buck would be your lifestyle images are number one. It has to be. Those are must-haves. And number two, if you could have a budget, I would put in your lifestyle videos. Lifestyle videos pack a huge punch.
So clinical comparisons, sometimes done through universities, sometimes done through third parties, are critically important. If you have a product that it might be something that you use on your skin or something that you digest. So just keep that in mind, that you're going to almost always have to have a clinical comparison done if you're in certain product categories.
That being said, it's always helpful to have a comparison even on your product packaging so that it's easily
understood by the
consumer. End buyer, by the end consumer.
So one-page sell sheets is like Retail 101. These are must-haves for every single brand out there. You're going to be using these all the time, introducing products to the retail buyer.
What kind of things do you have to have on a retail sales sheet for your buyer?
Well, yeah, so like product cost, what is the MSRPs? What are some of the major bullet points like features and benefits? This is just kind of really basic level. Every single brand has to have this stuff. So most retail brands sample to retail buyers. It's highly recommended. So some brands don't do it, and that's fine. But you're going to have a big advantage if you are one of those that samples. Now, for those products that actually do sample, some will be sloppy in their presentation. They'll just package the product in a UPS box and send it out there, and it'll come out damaged. Just don't do it. It's far better that you don't sample than to sample in a really incompetent way. So what I would highly recommend is having a specific box built for the retail buyer. Have instructions on the very front, have a thank you note, and really put your best foot forward.
And if you don't have a budget for something like that, a thank you note and a nice tissue paper wrapped package would be great for your buyer. Also, there's a lot of brands that don't have that have an extra expensive product. So in cases like that, what should they do?
Well, I would still strongly suggest sampling, but just put like a prepaid FedEx or UPS slip in there and just tell them you're expecting the product back. I mean, they have to see your product either way, right? Mm-hmm. Sometimes it gets really costly.
It's always better to just send a sample, even if you don't have the extras in that Jeremy's talked about. Write a thank you note, package it up nicely with some tissue paper, and you're going to be looked at more seriously by the buyers. They're going to appreciate you, and they're going to be remembering you. Yeah,
just think of it as like a cost of doing business. Try not to skimp out on that side. If you have a low budget, just keep that in mind. This is not an area that you should be eating into.
Of course, you don't need to sample boutiques or smaller mom and pop stores.
Yeah.
You never sample those people because they have the authority to buy right on site or right in the moment.
They just don't have the purchasing power to justify the samples typically.
Yeah, so you want to be conscious of that and don't let people take advantage of you, but definitely send the samples to the big boys. Send the samples to the ones that you really think would make a difference for your business.
Great point. So a lot of retail buyers want to see the sell-through, right? They want to see case studies. How did you perform units sold per store per week in a different retailer? So I highly recommend showing some real-world examples of what they should be able to expect if they purchase your product.
Do you have anything that comes to mind with case studies that have worked in the past? Or
yeah. Absolutely. So we've worked with like a toothpaste brand, for example, out of Australia. And they did really, really well when entering a new market into a different country through a really prominent retail store. And they ran some really hard promotions. They got some really good, strong numbers. And they were able to present their best case scenarios to the next retailer. Mm-hmm. That really, really helped them. Promos aren't just for the end consumer. It's also for the retail buyers. For example, if you have Black Friday or Cyber Monday, run a promotion for the retail buyers. Say, hey, here's a free case pack if you send us vendor docs within this specific period of time.
Yeah, we've had a lot of success doing that. And the buyers, I think it's a nice spin, something refreshing to kind of give you an edge to open that email.
Yeah, a lot of people just think, again, promotions are just for the end consumer.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even realize that, like, they won't really think that a buyer would even care that there's a discount.
It lets buyers hit the numbers that they need to hit, right? So if they get free case packs, that's a big motivation for a buyer to pick up your product line. Retail packaging is huge and critical. Not all brands are as fortunate as Nike where they can just have a really clean look. Like you think about the swoosh, or you think about
the
Apple,
iPhone, yeah.
And it's just a white package with a little logo. Mm-hmm. Well, unless you've already spent hundreds of millions of dollars through decades, you don't have that luxury. A lot of brands have to be very educational based on their retail packaging. So just have a clean look, get rid of things like QR codes and made in America flags and clutter words.
Don't be too worried. That will be a huge detriment to you.
Lifestyle images are also really important if you're going to put on the sides of your retail packaging. Windows, so on the front of your packaging is also really important. People can see the product before they actually purchase.
A lot of times it's really great to have infographics or the comparisons like we talked about earlier on your box, because it's self-explanatory. It's see it at a glance and understand it. And people are just like the buyers, they want to see it and understand it right at the first, 6 seconds.
Yeah. Product only photos that look like they're shot on white background are really important for e-commerce, right? There's a lot of really clean websites where they just want to see the product without a bunch of the lifestyle, a lot of the background in it. So think of Amazon. A lot of your products you're going to be seeing on Amazon or on Overstock or any of these others are just going to be, they're going to be files that look like they're shot on white background. Those are needed for a lot of different platforms, a lot of e-commerce platforms that aren't your own. So that's a must-have. This is a must-have for retail brands. You should have an assortment page from all the different SKUs and all the different colors that your products are going to be sold in. Just make sure that there are easy comparisons for retail buyers to see, so they can see, okay, what does the shade look like? What does the size look like? What are the differentiators?
You've worked with a brand in the past who had way too many options in terms of color.
Yeah.
And that can really
total SKU counts. Yeah.
Trip you up. Especially if you're putting a lot of money in your inventory, that can really trip you up, because a lot of times buyers don't have enough shelf space to showcase every color that you have or every option of pattern that you have.
Yeah.
You really need to be considering that. Just keep it simple. Do your top 3 colors.
That's a great point. There's studies that have been done. The less options people have, the more satisfied they are after they purchase. They're not re-guessing or re-questioning themselves.
Yeah,
on
that's
the purchase.
true. A lot of times it instills doubt in a person's mind if there is too much. Oftentimes I go into a store and I get too overwhelmed. I just shut down and I leave. I don't even consider my options. So keep it simple so that people can really see actually the product and not be overwhelmed by the options.
Yes, don't over-skew your assortment.
And don't put inventory into a lot of SKUs.
3D renderings are a whole different look for buyers. A lot of times they have a concept of what a product will look like in a store. And so what you typically do is find a designer, take a picture of what the shelf currently looks like, clear it off, and render with the shape and size of your product of what your products will look like on the shelf. And this is particularly useful if you have a store in a chain that you're going to be going into that's not easily accessible to you. They might be in a different state, for example.
Yeah, it's also important to do 3D renderings of your displays so that the buyers can really get a feel for what it's going to look like on their shelf or how much space it might take up.
So point of sales are also very important for the end consumer. It's the decision of when an end consumer is deciding whether to buy your product or not. So take a lot of time and effort when you're creating your point of sale for the end consumer. Like a BOGO ad, a buy one, get one. Make sure that it's really catchy. If an end consumer only has 2 seconds to see your product on a retail shelf, pop off the shelf for them. Show sell-through stats. So if your brand has had good sell-through from other retailers, they need to know exactly what to expect from your brand. Showcase that. Give them the best case scenarios.
Sometimes a lot of sell-through looks really low, but it's really important to have those numbers. Give me an example of a really low sell-through, a really low sounding sell-through, but that's actually a really good number.
Yeah, so for example, chapsticks. Each different SKU might sell 2 units per store per week. That's actually a really high number. It doesn't sound like much, but it's very, very strong. Most sell-through is typical between a quarter of a unit per SKU sold per week to 1 unit sold per SKU per week.
And are those numbers based on that buyer's category, or
Yes.
are those based on the whole store?
Those are based totally on the type of product and the type of store. So if you're in like a TJ Maxx, sell-through might be really, really high. If you're in a Bed Bath & Beyond, sell-through units per store per week will be really, really low. It just really depends on how many customers shop at that store per day. And different products have higher sell-through rates than others.
When you talk to a buyer, when you're negotiating whether or not you're getting that spot on the shelf, they'll talk to you about what their expectations of sell-through are. Have realistic expectations when you do have that spot on the shelf, but also realize that buyers will have a review at least once a year, and they'll expect those numbers to hit at or even just slightly below what they've set up for you once you started working with them.
It's a good example. A lot of brands that are just starting out might just go to a buyer and they'll say, yeah, we expect to sell 30 fishing poles through every store every week. And a buyer looks at that number and they think these guys are ridiculous. Our expectation for that category is a half a unit per SKU per week.
Yeah.
So just know what your expectations are for the specific retail store.
And don't think that just because they're asking for a low number that it's going to be easy.
So we've talked about the 25 must-haves of your retail brand. Everything from retail videos to sell sheets to infographics. I just really feel like if you're going to put forward your A effort, try to do as many of these as you possibly can.
Yeah, and like I've spoken about earlier in the video, if you can just focus on the lifestyle images and the video, the lifestyle video, those will be huge bangs for your buck.
Those are probably the two most important.
Mm-hmm.